Hello and welcome to Gameweek 34 and Apple Podcast Show. I'm FPL Journey and I'm with my co-host FPL Lens. How are you, Gabriel? You've been watching me restart my computer a good few times, haven't you?
I have been watching you restart your computer, and now nobody heard that first part of the intro that you just said. Basically, your sound was all fucked up until you said, "How are you, Gabe?" But anyway, we're gonna keep going because when you crash before the launch, you know it's gonna be rough waters. So we're gonna plow through these rough waters today, Nima.
Yeah, no, we're going to get going. So thanks everyone for your patience. Apologies for the delay. I think we're going to go straight into the mini league update and then we'll take it from there. So exciting news. So obviously Mariner is sitting at overall rank 21 in the world at the moment out of 9 million players. He's got 106 points so far this week with Veghorst to go in the game that just kicked off. He's on 2392 total points, so absolutely flying at the top now. Even, Obaid, number 2, FPL Milanista, he's a solid kind of 20 points nearly behind him at this stage. We've got Brad Curry, Pfizer Chiefs sitting at 2359. We've got Jack B, Ticking Time Rom at 2356. Template FC Tiger Rattigan at 2355 in 5th. And then just rattling down 6th to 10th, we have Luciano Luca Rosso. We have 7th Shubro Dasgupta. We have 8th Tom Robinson, 9th Bagus Amanda, and 10th Stefan F. So it's been a crazy time. Obviously, we've already said Chris isn't going to win any prizes. So 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, as it stands, will win the 3 prizes for the mini league. I'm excited to also announce that we're hoping next week will be the return of Mariner after he's had a bit of time to kind of recover and return home from hospital and just get going again nice and steadily. So it would be nice to have kind of OR number 21, maybe even better if Veghorst scores tonight by the time he comes back to a hero's welcome, right?
We're all pulling for Wout Weghorst tonight for sure.
Oh, of course. I know there's some Bro Horonas out there. He's got about 50% EO against me, so let's see how that goes. But maybe he gets subbed for Adams sub 60 minutes. That would be nice.
Maybe he scores a hat trick before he gets subbed. That would be nice.
That would be nice. It would be painful for me. I think just before we go straight into everything, I just want to say a quick shout out to everyone who's tuned in. Thank all the new members. We've got a new subscriber as well. We got a really lovely message from him actually. So he never watches the lives, Gabe, but he just watches the VODs after because of time zones, I think. And it was really nice to hear from him, like what he finds special about NetxG and why he's a member. So, but just to start with, obviously we've been doing the membership for nearly 2 months now. So just a quick shout out to FPL Robbie, Dread FPL, Matthew Locke, Tom Jones, Craig P, Razik, Podner, Kevin Rose, which is FPL_Saffron on Twitter, C Hunt, and our newest member as well, Greenback Golf. So really nice to have so many members supporting the channel. It's obviously $1.99 a month towards just helping us grow, and you get the kind of metrics, the FDRs, the captaincy, the zonals, all a couple of days in advance in the community tab before we show them on the show today. So in terms of who's in the live chat, so thank you, Blue, Danube guy who's here first. We got Podner here, Shakalaka Mekaleka. I think I read that wrong, but I'll go with it. Matthew Locke, Craig P, evening to you, Jaskrin Singh, Kevin Rose, good to see you. Nice to see so many of the members here actually patiently waiting for us and bearing with us while I crash the stream, as they say. FPL Dallas, another regular good friend of the show. John Chappelle, good to see you, mate. I still don't know if it's John Chappell or John Chappelle. Or, I've been kind of pronouncing it John Chappelle this whole time, but do correct us if we're wrong. We've got Aaron. We are here just about. And I'm still recovering from that victory last night away at Stamford Bridge, 4-2. I couldn't believe my eyes. FPL D Ching, good to see you, and Odrin Brennan, good to see you. So lots of you here, 15 people on the live, amazing turnout. I know we change the day every week. We must be the only pod, Gabriel, that like literally airs on a different day every week, and still the haulers come through.
You know, that's true, and then we have haulers from all over the world. We have Kevin down in South Africa. We have people from all over, and I think we're probably the only show that bridges really the planet. You know, with Mariner in Singapore, you're in the UK. I'm over in the United States in Pacific time now, but so we cover all sorts of time zones, but obviously we can't hit all of them. Not everybody can watch live, and we really appreciate messages like that.
Yeah, so Green's message, obviously Greenback Golf, like honestly, it was such a lovely message. I just felt like it had to be mentioned because we all felt quite humbled by it, didn't we, when Mariner shared the message that came through at the time. It was really something special, I thought. But so let's go into we've got James. Long time watcher, first time live watcher. That's awesome to have you here as well, James. Really appreciate you coming through while there's a match on. I don't know if you guys can keep us up to date, by the way. Like, please do tell us if anyone scores in the chat and if anyone gets red carded. I'm used to my cheap assets getting red cards this season, so. and what a brilliant time to segue into the FPL philosophy of the week when talking about suffering.
Suffering, right? The FPL philosophy of the week this week comes to us from Bodhidharma. Bodhidharma was a Buddhist monk who was known for bringing Buddhism to China. Stories around him kind of fluctuated and they became kind of lore and stuff. So it's a little bit hard to know what's history and what's mystery on Bodhidharma's front. But kind of like my thought this week is as I enter my accustomed FPL beach part of the season, where I just stop giving a fuck about everything. You're wearing the appropriate shirt for that with your pink flamingos, Nima.
Yeah, good to tell the podcast listeners about that. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. So I'm reminded of kind of like the way into the FPL beach and how you achieve, so the FPL beach is a state of mind, right? And how do we achieve that state of mind? And I thought this quote was perfect. And the quote goes as follows: "To seek is to suffer. To seek nothing is bliss." So it's that point where you stop chasing results, where you let go of OR, you let go of results-based thinking, and you realize, we only have 6 game weeks left, 5 game weeks,
yeah.
5 game
Really
weeks left of the FPL season, and then that lull in the summer comes. Even though there are other tournaments and stuff, certainly the women's tournament, but then we begin to miss it, right? So if we stop looking for those results, then we can just enjoy the moment, and that is what's truly bliss.
No, I really like this, and I think I definitely like. I think this is really. I know you're talking about the beach and the end of the season, but I think this kind of mentality really is accurate of game week 1 and also wildcard weeks, because like you seek so many variations that you've almost tinkered every possible player in the team into your team. And then when you actually then lock and load that wildcard of the game week 1 team, even if you get like loads of points, you always feel like you're suffering because you're like, well, 10 of my 11 players return, but look at this wanker on 1 point when the alternative out of the 9 alternatives I tried got 20. Like, and you're like, you're just not satisfied. Like, fucking no, mate, take the 100 points and move, right? Like, God.
I almost chose that one player that returned. I almost chose him. I also almost chose 20 other players, but I did almost choose that.
And the other 19 fucking flopped, right?
Flopped as well, exactly.
I'll save the swearing till I'm at least past the watershed or whatever they call it in the UK, in case YouTube deletes our video or something silly.
We don't want to get banned in India.
No, I know. It's a good thing we changed the channel's ownership from Singapore to the UK. Obviously, we have an amazing announcement today. I know you've put on Twitter for anyone that's not seen. Go to, obviously, the podcast listeners as well. Go to @FPL Lens on Twitter, and you'll see this announcement that Gabe's going to tell you about now. But he's working on a kind of, I guess, non-FPL, like actual football strategy show. And your first episode's just come out, right? That's really exciting.
Yeah, that's right. So this is the second episode we record, but we had some technical issues to figure out on the first one. But I'll be using some interesting software. I didn't use it in this one, but this is basically Total Football Analysis. I've partnered up with them. Check out their site, totalfootballanalysis.com. They have some really incredible writers, and actually a few people know they've been around longer than The Athletic.
Wow, they're one of the old guard of the football tactical industry. They do physical print as well, right? I remember you told me a while back that they distribute to like all the clubs and staff at clubs. Like, really,
it's a digital magazine that goes to like all the Premier League clubs, and they were founded by a gentleman named Chris Darwin, and he became famous for winning Football Manager with this small club from Spain, and then moving to that town in Spain after winning with them and working for the club.
No.
and so he started this analysis site, and now he does he does scouting for Vélez, and he's so it's quite the project. These guys are really amazing. The people that work there and the writers are incredible. So definitely check them out. And we have our first show. It's the Tactics show for the Total Football Analysis. Check out their YouTube channel and subscribe and like us where you can. So the idea behind the show is it's a tactical, statistical, and cultural analysis of world football.
I love that. And I think it's something that I feel like it's always been a passion of yours. Obviously, Akib as well, good to see you, mate. He mentions that some listeners might not know that you're obviously a licensed coach in the US, and I think it is right up your street to kind of not just talk about FPL, but really take that deep knowledge and love of the sport, and it must be so like rewarding to be able to apply it in this kind of scene and to be part of a publication that's been around so much longer than the Athletic. And to say that's awesome.
It feels, to be honest, it feels like I've found myself, kind of, and that's extremely satisfying. And so our first show is on, just to give you the cultural element, is on the first part is Unai Emery and how he's such an incredible knockout competition manager, but not as great league manager. We do talk about his time at Arsenal a little bit and mentions kind of the cultural elements there. We also talk about the Zwei Bundesliga, the title race in Bundesliga 2, which is incredible. And there's a bunch of cultural elements there. We mentioned like the South Americans and that have played in the Bundesliga, clubs like Schalke and stuff. And then we finish up with a quick kind of Champions League semifinal roundup. So there's a bunch of different stuff.
Good content there,
yeah. So I hope you
I'm
enjoy
really
it.
excited to watch it later on. Obviously, I've just come home, as you know, from the office, and like
Yeah.
as the new norm is 2 weeks into the job, I'm like shoving food down my throat while trying to go live, and the computer's blowing up in my face. But we've got the FDR. Just before we go into it, to timestamp this for the podcast listeners, Burnley are now winning 1-0. We're about 15 minutes into the game. Brownhill's assisted Roberts. What really kind of scares me here is that who obviously captain Bruno Guimaraes, he has Roberts first on his bench and he has Adams playing. So now I'm kind of really rooting for Adams to, fucking sub on for 1 minute, honestly, because I have been hunting Az down all season in Rockstar's All-Star League, and I overtook him this week, like on Saturday, and then by Sunday when Bruno Guimaraes got his brace, Az was back to 19 points ahead of me. So like whoever wins that league gets to meet the anonymous Rockstar, and Rockstar will buy them beers. And you can imagine, like as a former Scarfacer, I really want to meet Rockstar in person and have that beer. So as you fucking standing in my way, bro, like Adams better sub on, mate. I'm not gonna be happy. But yeah, that aside, let's go into the FDRs. We're obviously 12 minutes in, and I know we've not quite gotten into the show yet. So I think for me, obviously there's a double game week since we last spoke. Arsenal and United and Chelsea have a double since Chelsea beat Palace in the FA Cup. So that has come to materialize. From my perspective, I think what I'd love to focus on from the FDRs today really is I'd like us to look at like a few specific teams. Obviously, United and Chelsea first, but I think I'd really keen to look at City as well, because I think they're kind of going under the radar. A lot of people are prioritizing double game weekers. They're buying the likes of Pukki and Mateta for bench boosts, etc. And they're buying the likes of, say, Cash in defense for a bench boost or whatever. And I'm thinking to myself, like, if we're going under the mantra of buy the best players from the best teams, like, how can we not be targeting City assets even though Chelsea have a second game this week? Should we be using transfers to go for Chelsea? And I'm hoping the FDR can paint this for us, especially for the beyond period from 35 to 38, not just for 34. And I'd love to know, like, as we go through the show, let's look at Chelsea and United first, but I think let's then also massively focus on City, because I think they're a really important one to look at. Liverpool I've not mentioned so much because most people have 3 of them, and if they have 2, then we could talk about them a bit, but the options of which third to go for, there's a few, and it's a no-brainer, right? But yeah, I think those top 4 teams, I say top 4 teams, those top 3 teams plus United I'd like to talk about. And then maybe it's worth just talking a little bit about Arsenal and Spurs. We might talk about some of the other clubs, but I think really it's just those teams that are fighting for the title, the top 4. I think that's where we're looking to load up assets from, unless you're bench boosting and you need a couple of maybe Leicester, Everton, Villa players potentially. But yeah, I think let's start with Chelsea. That's obviously the massive flavour of the month. There's a bit of a situation there, right? So Rudiger might not be back for West Ham, it sounds like. Malang Sarr looked horrendous playing in that pack 3, replacing Rudiger. Alonso was pretty bad himself, but just based on how bad Sarr was, I can't see like them moving to a pack 4 and Alonso being benched. I think it's more likely Malang Sarr gets benched than Alonso, because they were both terrible down that side. But Sarr was really bad. On top of that, obviously, Reece James has played a couple of games as a right centre-back instead of a right wing-back. That's also worth, I think, discussing. So I think people were looking at double defence. With the recent injuries they've had, I'm personally not so convinced. I'm a Rudiger owner. He's the only Chelsea player I have. So I'm really keen to see what you think about these FDRs and is it worth that sideways move I told you about like 5 weeks ago of Rudiger to say James or Rudiger to Alonso.
I see Chelsea's a little bit of a conundrum because they are. It seems like they're kind of on the beach a little bit, and what I mean by that is not so much their players, but Thomas Tuchel, just with like his team selections and what he's trying to do. I mean, why I don't understand why is Christensen even playing when he's
Oh,
signed
sorry,
for.
I forgot to mention him. Forget Malang Sarr. Like Christensen, wow, like both games he got subbed in the Champions League and the Prem at halftime. Like absolutely shocking. Like
I mean, so for Christensen, he's gone. He's going to Barcelona next season, right? So his why is Tuchel playing him? You know, at this point, you have third place pretty much wrapped up. You want to see how you can build for the future. You have other players that you can throw in there. I think Sarr on that left side. Obviously, he had an awful game, but he's going to be up and down. He's a young player, and that's the right thing to do. You know, go develop him and then Alonso will not play in a back four. That's guaranteed. He needs the cover behind him to play, but I don't see who else will play there at least in the short term. So I do expect a back three from Chelsea.
I think Sarr could play the left back if it was a back four, and I guess that's what I was kind of getting at is like if you don't get Alonso because of fear of rotation, it's like, well, if they're playing a back three and now that they've got these defensive issues, like, are they really gonna, after the way Sarr and Christensen played, and then you've got Rudiger out, like, are they really gonna go into a back four with Sarr at left back? Probably not. So
No.
that makes me think Alonso might be at least nailed in the short term just for this one double. You might not still have him playing both by the time the next double comes around. But no, I think the other thing is like people talked about Saul potentially playing as a left wing back, but he's not played a game since like Feb. So I wouldn't. I think Alonso's as nailed as it gets. But my thinking is like if I'm going to buy Alonso just because he has one extra fixture this week, I don't own any City defenders. I would much rather pay a little bit more and just go to Laporte. Like I would rather, like I would make the claim that Laporte will outscore Alonso between now and the end of the season, even though Alonso has this second extra game now. Like, so I think that's the little dilemma I have where if I can't get James, I feel like for me now personally, it's James or bust in that defense, regardless of him playing right centre back some games. Like I think if you can't get James, I would not go near that defense right now.
I think I'm with you there, and it's not just because the defenders are playing so poorly, and Tuchel is making so many tactical mistakes and player personnel mistakes, personnel selection mistakes, but I think also the center mids are not playing well.
And Kovacic is out, right? And he's been vital to their play. And I don't think Kante and Jorginho can bring to the attack what Kovacic was bringing, because Kovacic and Mount were so vital to feeding Havertz and Werner and the rest. And I just feel like with Kovacic gone, it's really tough.
Kovacic does it all. He does it all. He
Yeah.
recovers balls. He opens up. He becomes an outlet. He links the play between the back line and the front. He drives into space. He can dribble. He's a really smart player, and Chelsea have been at their best when he's been on the pitch. So I think that the loss of Kovacic it hurts them a lot. But I think also N'Golo Kante is not playing to his accustomed level. He's in poor form right now, and that's also hurting Chelsea. So I agree with you. I wouldn't go beyond Reece James as far as defense. You know, people sitting with like for example myself, I have Thiago Silva and Rudiger, right? Rudiger will certainly miss the West Ham game. May not start the next game, or he may. I don't think we've heard
But
anything
even if he
on
just
that.
starts one, right? And I'm like, do I really want him just for that one game? Like,
Right, and so, but I think going
with
from
5 game weeks to go, right? Like, it's like I might as well just attack, like do something.
But I think as far as that attack, I think going Rudiger to James is interesting. I don't think James will play in that center back role much anymore. I don't know. I take.
So I think
Go
what I
ahead.
was going to say is, and Akid makes a good point about this. So there is Chalobah, and like I think the issue is he wasn't unfit. He just didn't get selected, is what the
That's my
Chelsea board
point.
said. So I'm a bit like, how did this madman play Christensen, who's leaving, over another one of their young players who's actually quite good? So I think they will stick with a back three. Firstly, I think, and then secondly, I think that if anything's going to happen, one of Christensen or Saar will drop out for Chalobah, probably Christensen. So it's like, that means they're probably then going to stay in the back three, which
Yes.
then means Alonso's probably still nailed. So I could understand if someone wanted to do Rudiger to Alonso, but for me, if you're gonna do that, I'd still rather just do Rudiger to Laporte, because I feel
So
like Rudiger to James is compelling, but otherwise I'm not so excited by the Alonso.
the other thing that could happen, right, is that when Alonso plays on the left and on the right it was Azpilicueta at the wing back and Reece James at the right back, right? Trevor Chalobah is an obvious selection for that center back role, right? So if they switch it up, right, Azpilicueta could play on the left. If they only want to attack with one wing, because in that formation, you hold Azpilicueta back and you send Alonso. Well, Alonso's just going to go, right? But if you flip
We
it
like
around,
it from an FPL perspective, but a real
right,
manager will be watching those mistakes and thinking, "Oh shit."
and then he's like, well, maybe the manager puts James in the attacking role at the wing back, moves Azpilicueta to the left like he did in the Champions League, right? And then just sends lit James and then sits Alonso. So it would make sense to do that as well. So
I think if I was on a free hit, I'd consider him. But based on what we're saying, Brentford put 4 past them, Arsenal put 4 past them. They've conceded 11 goals in their last 3 home games. I would not on free hit or otherwise be even getting close to double defense. I think if I was on free hit, some people are, I would be looking to maybe even double or triple attack. It would be like double attack plus James, or just go all out, Mount, Havertz, Werner, get all 3 on free hit, and then all of them are back out.
I like the double attack plus James structure. And then just the one last comment I have to make about Chelsea is go watch Smith Rowe's goal again. That little just like punch when he punches the ball. The Sar moving like a falling tree aside. He gets no spring off of his step. Look at Ruben Loftus-Cheek. How he's like, we say in Venezuela, we say cazando mariposas, is like hunting butterflies. He's like this in the middle of the field, while Smith Rowe just kind of comes in off his back shoulder. That's the kind of central mid play that Chelsea's getting from their center mids right now.
I think we should speak about the attackers, seeing as we're saying that we spent a long time saying that actually, like, we don't think defensively is great. Just for the podcast listeners, I will say, like, the FDR defensively for, Gameweek 34 is a 1.4 and then a 0.3. So, yeah, like, I think, like, honestly, unless you can get James because of that extra attacking output, plus we're pretty sure he's as nailed as he's going to get. Like, if you get him, you can keep him for the whole season. I can't see a world in which I'd want Alonso. On a free hit, maybe you could go for Thiago Silva. Maybe you think it's a good matchup. Now that, you got Lukaku, who's definitely not going to play. So, and Rudiger's out. So I think aerially, Thiago Silva is one of the biggest aerial threats after Havertz. So, who's going to be trying to get those goals is going to be Thiago Silva. So again, maybe on a free hit, you could tempt with Thiago over Alonso for that goal threat. From an attacking point of view, the attacking FDR is 1.2 and 2.8, which is a little bit more promising in the double game week there. And also just over the 35 to 38 stretch is an 11.8 attacking FDR, which is, is the best, tied with Liverpool for attack. So I think definitely the way I look at it is that Mount is for the long term. So if you can get Mount for the long term, I would get him now and keep him for the whole season. Havertz, what worries me about him, and I heard Zoff talking about this on The Wire, and he's obviously a big Chelsea fan, and I think he made a very valid point where Tuchel recently made a statement about how Havertz had so many minutes in his legs, and that's kind of why he rested him this game. Now, with him having been rested and Lukaku being so shocking, I do think Havertz will play the next 2 and start them both, with them being tough games in West Ham and United. But the game after that, in 35, that's a pretty nice game for them. That's like 2-3 days after having them played 2 games in like 5 days. So suddenly it's like, he's probably going to be benched for that too. So I think the way Zoff put it was, as a Chelsea fan, he said Havertz for the short term, Mount for the long term. Like Havertz because he's playing further up the pitch. If you want to captain a Chelsea player, you don't want to captain Salah. Havertz maybe for the captaincy this week, you buy him, but then you might be selling him in 35 because he might not start. Mount, you buy him, his numbers are great. In either formation they've played recently, he's still going to be a key cog in that. So really, like, I think Mount's for the long term. Havertz is like, if you want a Chelsea captain, I think that's the way I would look at it. And then Werner, just on that note, he's obviously been playing fantastic recently. Even despite hitting crossbars and posts and missing shots from nearby, he has amassed quite a lot of attacking returns in his last few matches. And I do think he's proving to not just be a goal scorer, but the chance creator for them. Equally, we know he's not the best finisher, right, Gabe? But the whole potential is there in the sense that he will get the volume of chances. Whether he converts them on the day, we don't know, but the upside is there.
Yeah, Werner is a very interesting story. We saw how poor a finisher he was on his in his goal against you guys against Arsenal. Such a terrible shot.
Is that
That
the
was like a
weakest shot that somehow deflects in?
It
Yeah.
was awful. That was like a Kulusevski type shot. But
Shout out to him.
I had to get it in there.
Oh, that's so good. But yeah, no, so I think, yeah, me personally, so like I'll be real with you. I had Rudiger. I thought he was gonna play. Now that he's not, I'm looking at either moving him to James or Laporte. And the decision comes down to this. If I could, I would get James and Havertz. So I was gonna sell Barnes and Rudiger for my 2 free transfers. I'm zero point 0.1 short of James and Havertz. So then that means one of them has to be sacrificed, right? So then I was like, so do I want Alonso and Havertz? Do I want James and Mount? And then that's when I started thinking, what the fuck is this? Like, fuck Alonso. I need Laporte. Like, if I don't have
Yes.
Cancelo and I have no City players, and we'll look at City's FDR too, but like, I need Laporte then. Yeah, I forget Alonso, forget Thiago Silva, forget all these guys. If I want Havertz, if I'm going to captain Havertz, it's going to have to be Laporte and Havertz for me, I think, and captain Havertz and go. If I'm going to captain Salah, then maybe I don't need Havertz. Maybe I get Mount for the long term for the season, and I also get James for the long term for the season, and I just stick with the Salah captaincy against Everton. So that's another thing I've thought about. But you know, let's see if there's any City double game week announcements, whether it's 36 or 37 pre-deadline. If we know that, then Werner is someone I really want. So I'm going to be honest with you. I was eyeing up all these -4s that involve selling Richarlison for Werner. But the rumors are that the City double game is likely to be in 36, and I think it would be madness for me to sell Richarlison for a hit when I already have 2 Everton players for their juicy home fixtures in 37. And if I'm not going to free hit in 37 because City's double falls in 36, then I probably got to hold on to Richarlison, which means now I have no way to Werner. So, and I've got Ronaldo, right? So people were talking about selling Ronaldo to Werner and then that freeing up loads of funds to get James, Havertz, whoever you want. But again, the problem there is A, it's a massive hit, and B, on all the kind of predicted points algorithms out there, Ronaldo is pretty up there, not just for this week, but next week too. So, like, you know, the guy, obviously, like, RIP, like, there was a very sad story about his unborn child's stillbirth on Monday. He missed the game on Tuesday, and he was back in full team training on Wednesday. I don't think a guy who doesn't want to start the Saturday game would be back in full team training by Wednesday after losing a child on Monday. So I think he's going to be ready to take that shit out against Arsenal. So, like, I can see the appeal of selling Ronaldo to Werner to then fund other positions, but I think it's madness. I think Ronaldo is going to come for blood against everyone he's playing. He's going to be hungry.
Definitely. I mean, that is how what his character is like, right? He's done that kind of stuff in the past. Definitely a shout out to Cristiano Ronaldo and condolences for his loss. I actually went through the same thing many years ago, about 10 years ago. So I know how that feels, and I know the kind of emptiness that it can leave inside. And that was such a beautiful gesture from the Liverpool at Anfield for the
Definitely,
fans, right?
with that kind
really
of
nice.
rivalry, and for them to kind of, I think
Yeah,
Ronaldo's sister came out and thanked them for it and said, "We're
yeah.
never going to forget this gesture," as you say. I think it's just it's nice to see everyone kind of support him and like understand. But as you say, like I think it's like one of those things where that's why I'm surprised he was back at training, because I'm a bit like, wow, like if I was in that situation, like I'd be dead inside for maybe months, years. I don't know how I'd recover.
But
And this guy is
if
there,
he's
like
back,
he's
if he's
training.
back in training, I agree with you. That's a sign, and you don't want to sell Ronaldo if he's
So I
already
think
back in
that's
training. He's
madness. Like the
focused
people trying to
and
sell him, they are losing the plot. Like we know that he can get Arsenal, and then we also know that Chelsea just conceded 11 in 3 home games, as we said,
yeah.
including 4 against Brentford and 4 against Arsenal. So I can't see a world in which I'd sell him. So I think we talked about Chelsea. Let's talk about United then. We talked about Ronaldo. They're FDRs for the podcast listeners. So they've got pretty bad ones this week, despite Ronaldo being so high up in the metrics. He has a minus zero point -9 attack in the first game against Arsenal and a minus zero point -3 attack in the second game against Chelsea. Their defense, for comparison, United, I don't know who has that, but minus zero point -6 and minus 2.8 for the long term as well, for the run until 38. Their numbers are some of the worst here. There's 1.9 for attack in the run in and minus 0.6 for the defense. So I think my position on United is, if you already own them, the attackers at least, I would keep them for this week. Like, and I would not be buying a United player for this double. I don't know if you agree.
I agree. I mean, those of us that went in on United last game week, certainly you hold the assets. It was with the hopes that we'd get the double this week as well, right? So we I think we continue on that path, and just there are other more enticing options, or like we have to look towards the future, like you said, with the City assets. So to be buying United right now feels like buying last week's points. Um,
I think if I was on a wild card, I'd probably swerve them all together. There could be an argument for you keep Ronaldo on the wild card, you turn him to Kane for a captain against Watford in 35. But I personally really think Son is a great captaincy option in 35. It's also, it's like there is that. I've only got Kulusevski from Spurs now. My plan was always to do Ronaldo back to Kane in 35 potentially. So I feel like for me, the Spurs captaincy in 35 is where it's at. But we'll come to that in next week's captaincy metric, I'm
I
sure.
I have to be honest. This might be like a gambler's fallacy or something, but I think Bruno could do really well. I think it could be like the pendulum could swing,
It
and
happened
and
in
it
the
could be,
last two doubles they had, right? So like in the
yeah,
first one, Bruno went off, and then
right.
in the second one, Ronaldo went off, and it's kind of like it's almost like a similar thing could happen here again.
I'm
I think
feeling that.
it's unfortunate because obviously with Pogba's injury, Bruno moved into almost like a defensive mid role once Pogba got subbed off. So it's almost like we'll never know like how that could have gone. I expected Liverpool to concede a goal, and kind of as soon as all that went down, like Ronaldo wasn't there, Fred wasn't there, McTominay wasn't there, Sancho wasn't there, Varane wasn't there. Like when I saw that United team, and then like as soon as Pogba didn't get injured, let's just say that he saw the goal going and was like, "Fuck this, I'm leaving this summer. I'm not dealing with this battering," and just walked off the pitch. And if there's any United fans here who think he's genuinely injured, let me know because all my United friends think he's not injured. So
I
yeah,
have a
so
question for you, Nima. So if we're talking about these players, we're talking about United and stuff like that. How would you compare like let's say a Bruno with a double to like somebody on free hit, right? Say you're looking at Bruno versus KDB.
No, I would try to get KDB, Havertz, Werner, and James or something like that. Like if I was on a free hit, I think I'd just swerve United. Because for me, what I like about free hit is you're almost trying to go against what the people own. So if you're free hitting and others are wildcarding, or they still have the double players from last week, so the United players, I would look to kind of move like just go against the pack. Because if you're going to end up having the same players you owned already, then it's almost like why did you free hit, in my opinion? And especially the premiums, that's where all the money's tied up, right? And if you can have a De Bruyne in a home game against Watford, is it? I can't see
Yeah.
like that's crazy. Like I would be all over that. Like we've seen this United team week in week out, and they've been shocking, and their FDRs don't look good. So looking at City, they're attacking FDRs 2.4. You compare that to United's minus 0.9 and minus 0.3. It's day and night
Yeah.
difference. Like
Yep.
so, yeah, if KDB has one game, so what? Like on a free hit, on a wild card, I'd still have KDB. Yeah,
Well, and then the wild card, and then you look over at the 35 to 38, and it's by quite some distance. It's Chelsea is the obvious. Liverpool, Chelsea at 11.8, Liverpool at 11.8 for attack, City at 9.0, and Spurs at 8.8. Like these are the players that you want, right? And then you're looking at United for 35 to 38. They're at 1.9 by comparison. So I think while making short-term decisions, don't lose sight of the final 3 or 4 game weeks as well.
yeah. So I think if you own Ronaldo or Bruno, you hold for this double. But then at that point, you're looking to move off onto like a City, Liverpool, Chelsea player. Like I feel like that's the plan. Like that's the goal. In terms of then just talking a little bit more about Spurs, you mentioned it's worth going to them because they have a great long-term FDR. This week, their FDR is not all that. They obviously play Brentford away. Brentford have a little bit of a resurgence. The attacking FDR against Brentford is 0.2. The defense is 0.0. Long term, it is an 8.8 attack from 35 to 38 and a 3 for defense. So they are definitely still one of the better teams long term. But I think like if you've kind of like me sold Kane for Ronaldo or sold some for Bruno, I think you stick to that plan of moving next week back to the Spurs player, not this week. I think you wait, you hold that off. On a wild card, you might say, actually, like I kind of want Son from now. I'll get him from now on the wild card. I don't want to waste the transfer from Bruno back to Son next week. So I can also get that. If you're on a wild card, you go against the holders. So that's fine. I think who else is there? So that's Spurs. I think the only thing I would say is for me, I think I said this, people mocked me for it. We both said this, right? We said that we didn't believe last episode that they could keep scoring at the rate they were. We felt it wasn't feasible, and we didn't feel like every team would attack them like Villa and press them and give play into their hands for that counter attack from Son and Kane. They're missing Doherty. He was bombing up and down the wing when he used to play for them before the injury. Emerson Royale is shocking. Regulion is a little bit better, but not that much better. Still not comparable to Sessegnon. Then, Conte's system is famous for two wing backs. He doesn't have his two first choice wing backs. We've seen what that's done to Arsenal without Tomiyasu and Tierney. We've seen what it's done to Chelsea when they were a title challenger and lost Chilwell and James. We saw what happened to Liverpool just from losing Van Dijk, let alone both fullbacks. They dropped 20 points this season when they lost them. So I definitely think that people are just overly expecting Spurs to go in. And the reality is, like, when they play a team like Brighton, who isn't going to play into their hands and allow those kind of Romero passing into the middle to Kane, Kane to Son, you cut out those three passing lanes of Romero to Kane to Son, and you cut out the counter attack, and then there's no first choice wing backs. I don't think Spurs are as good as they seemed. I think they were overperforming their metrics, and not everyone's going to do what Villa did. People would look at the Brighton blueprint and say, you know what? We can just kind of like let them have to play against us, and where are they going to create?
I think Graham Potter watches Net That Hall. That's all I have to say. Because we've been saying for weeks that Spurs have been benefiting from terrible tactics against them and just ridiculously poor play, and that wasn't likely to continue, right? And Brighton figured them out. You play a deep line and you pressure in central midfield when Kane comes deep to drop to receive
Everyone
that ball.
piling on him.
So all he needed was Basuma. Basuma
played incredible man of the match performance.
Monster,
honestly.
Great game. Caicedo's a good player. Basuma just neutralized Kane. You neutralize Kane, then you're relying on those god awful wingbacks like you mentioned. And so it's a simple formula to beat Spurs. Neutralize that Kane drop in midfield and play a deep line, and you're fine. They can't do anything. They can't create. They have bad players.
And I think I guess the whole reason I brought that up is because, in my opinion, there was lots of debate for a few weeks of moving from Son to Kane, moving from Kane to Son. Then we said having both. I think it's pretty clear now for me anyway that you're in a situation where either one is fine. You probably want at least one of them, and you probably want them from 35 to 38. Now, for someone like me who's going to free hit, hopefully in 36, if that's when the City double is, when they play Liverpool away and Arsenal home, then it seems like a no-brainer for me to do like Ronaldo to Kane in 35, free hit out Kane for a City mid in the double game week, and then have him for the great two fixtures at the end of the season. So that's my thinking. I think that's kind of the plan. Like, you probably do want at least one premium Spurs players for the final run. I think you probably want Salah, or one of Son or Kane, probably Son just to save the 2 mil. And then you probably want a City premium. Like, if you can afford KDB, great. If you can't, maybe Foden.
So this past week, I could have gone Kane to Ronaldo. That was one of my options. But I went Kane to Saint-Maximin, and then I upgraded Rafinha to Bruno so I could get Son. It was because I wanted Son that I missed out on Ronaldo.
It's so painful.
It's so painful. Sometimes that future planning is what.
I've tried to avoid talking about your Bruno move, but look, at least you didn't do Salah to Bruno. Like, there are some people out there really hurting and suffering.
That's a big swing.
Because think of that swing, right? Imagine you kept Kane for his blank, didn't get Ronaldo for the hat trick, and then sold Salah for his haul and got Bruno for his man. Like, that's swing right there. I don't know how many points that is, but that is easily 50, 60, 70 point swing in 1 week.
If this describes you have a VIP guest pass to the FPL beach. Just come join me. We'll hang out together. We'll drink fucking tequila.
Dead end your team. We go again next season, man. I think just before we go on, there's a few comments in the chat which I'd love to get to. So obviously Kevin mentioned City defenders are vital for him too. I think he also doesn't have any like me, so we're desperate. Vekos hit the woodwork from a header inside the 6-yard box. That's painful for me to hear. C Hunt, good to see you, mate. So he says, who's going to play midfield with Bruno? He is fair. Like, if he's going to play deep, then like, what's going on? What I would say is, we don't think Pogba was injured. So Like, surely he starts the next game unless he's going to be disciplined for that behavior. Red card in the first game against Liverpool, walk off with a fake injury in the second game against Liverpool. Not a good look, but with no one fit like Fred, then they're probably going to have to play him again. And I think they lose too much from Bruno not playing as an attacking mid. So I'm convinced they will still try and play Pogba in that role. And then on top of it, McTominay was on the bench. And I think the way I saw that lineup from United was they threw in the towel against Liverpool. I think they were saving Sancho and McTominay for this Arsenal game. So personally, I think McTominay's ready. He's back. He wouldn't have been on the bench if he couldn't play. And I think they were just saving him for the game against Arsenal because they believe it's more winnable. So with that in mind, I don't think United are going to play Bruno as a DM in this game against Arsenal. I think that would be naive of them. And hence, I would probably still keep Bruno for this game. Now, keep an eye out on the pressers. Let's hear about Pogba's fitness from Ranić. But I'm confident that McTominay is going to slot in and that Bruno will play as an attacking mid. And then you can sell him the week after, personally. Podner agrees that Pogba isn't injured. And I get what they're saying. Like, it is mad, isn't it, that people want McFred back? Matthew Locke says it, Podner says it. Like, we're in a situation now where, like, we used to laugh about, like, the Fred and McTominay partnership, but actually, like, I would go as far on the limb as saying that Fred has been one of United's best players this season. So they are genuinely missing him. Blue Danube guy, he's obviously sold Bruno for Salah, but I think that's a little bit different. Like, we're talking about Salah here against Everton at home. Like, yeah, like, that I can condone, but
look at the FDR, right? 7.2 for Salah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, so this is a great time to go into Liverpool. So we've talked about City, Chelsea, Spurs, Liverpool 7.2 attack, 3.3 defense. You can see how I've ended up with no City defender, right? Because every week Robbo just gets me points, and every week I'm like, am I really gonna take a -4 to do Robbo to Cancelo? Like, this week they both got 4, the week before they both that, and I'm like, fuck, I can't go forever without a City player. So with the Rudiger injury, maybe Laporte is the way in. Like, maybe that's the plan. Like, maybe I just forget Alonso because screw him. Collins goal. Wow, Collins, like 2-0 Burnley. This is shocking stuff. What's going on here? I'm having a look at oh my lord. I own Jay Rodriguez against FPL Salah in a head-to-head draft league, and he owns Nick Pope. So yeah, this is painful. We went into this match 0.5 points apart because of how the scoring works. And it turns out if I played any of the other 10 opponents in the mini league, I would have won. But of course, I faced Abdul Rahman when he's having some insane game week. Yeah, of course, just my bloody luck, isn't it? The best player, the best player in FPL, and I got the highest bloody score, but I still gonna end up losing when he gets that Pope clean sheet and bonus. My God. So we talked about Liverpool. So the reason I mentioned that was because I've got the double defense for this week. They have the best defensive FDR. So yet again, how could I possibly sell Robbo just because I've owned Trent? I have to keep him again. And then we're 1 week closer to his double game week. And it's like, and even over the course of the season, right? Liverpool's FDR for defense 3.4. Like, okay, it's not as good as, say, Chelsea or Man City, but still up there. Still the third best defense for the run-in.
It's interesting that both Liverpool's attack FDR at 7.2 and their defense so their attack FDR is 7.2, which is 3 times better than City's at 2.4. And their defense FDR is 3.3, which is also 3 times better than City's defense FDR at 1.1. So overall, the Liverpool assets are, according to the FDR stats anyway, 3 times better than the City assets.
And it's not just the FDR stats, man. Like, I've been looking at FPLreview.com, the free model. Maybe next season I'll pay for the subscription to support them for the massive data. But on the free model, every week I look at it thinking like, okay, like maybe it will like tell me to do my plan of like Robbo to Cancelo. It basically just tells me every week I look to just not buy the City defender because it's like, just keep Robbo. It's like every week Robbo's predicted points are great. And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, what the hell? Like, I guess I got to keep him, right? Like, and he's a differential in some ways.
I mean, it also, yeah, you're going from Liverpool. And if we look at the aggregate FDR from 35 to 38, the Liverpool defense FDR is 3.4, whereas City is 6.6. So there is a point where there's a little bit of a swing there. But
Maybe not this
overall,
week, yeah.
maybe not this week. Yeah, so just keep your eye on it.
Shit, man.
And maybe it's about a redistribution of funds. Maybe you want to bring like Jota in or something like that. Maybe you see something in Liverpool, like just a
I
switch
guess if
there.
I'm going to go to another player, then it would like that would make sense. But then the problem is Diaz has been so good, he's basically made Mane lose his position. But then Mane's been so incredible at centre forward with like 11 goals and assists in like however many games he's played centre forward, I think 9 games, that he's then made Jota drop. So it's like each of them is having a knock-on impact
Yeah,
on each other.
yeah, they're all they're all
Shit.
making the other one better.
And the only person who's like stayed permanently through all this is Salah. The question comes in. Some people are saying they could see a Robertson benching this week, or they could see a Salah limited minutes this week. Everton obviously being an easy fixture as the FDR implies. Like there is a fear there, but equally I've got Richarlison against Liverpool on my bench. So if Robbo's benched, I just hope that Richarlison comes in and wipes Trent's clean sheet for me.
I mean,
That's the plan here. Like
Richarlison seems like a Derby player anyway, right? He's gonna
he's got a good yellow card in him every match. Every match he's got a
yeah.
yellow in him. Every
Yeah.
match. He is one arrogant motherfucker. But moving on from Richarlison and Everton, I think let's talk about Arsenal briefly, and then we'll go to the next few slides, and we'll get going to the Twitter questions and live questions. So, no, I agree, Sihan. It just seems mad for me to sell Robert. You're right. I've been asking Press FPL like every week. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna do Robert Cancelo. He's like, you're mad. He's like, just what are you talking about? Like, you got Robert, just you keep him now. Like that's it. You keep him. That's it. It's season over. He's in your team. So Arsenal, they'd come off the back of 3 losses in the league in a row, 1 deflected goal in that time, 4 losses in 5 in the league. Season over, according to many. Top 4 chances over. The whole project sunk and Arteta back out again because of how reactionary football is these days. When the match started, they put a little stat up on the screen, the type of stats I love. And it said, Mikel Arteta, 3 wins in 4 against Chelsea as a manager. And I was like, there we go, boy. You're here. You're ready. You go make these guys make up these crap excuses like blaming the pitch. Are you kidding me? Stamford Bridge, your home ground, Thomas Tuchel. You might be a master tactician, mate, but when you're coming out trying to protect Christensen, so instead of blaming your players, you're blaming your own fucking home ground pitch, and you're saying the grass is fucked, the ball bounces too much. The ball bounced in front of Christensen just like it did against Madrid, and oh my god, our pitch is the reason we lost every game and got knocked out of the Champions League and lost to a terrible Arsenal in form at the time. You just got to laugh. I just can't help but laugh. Like, everyone wrote off Arsenal, right? Like, Saka is the most transferred out player of the game week. And that was before he played in fucking Hall. But that's mad. Like, look how reactionary football is. And, like, the reason I want to mention this is I didn't see... No one took no prisoners. Like, Arsenal lost both their fullbacks in Tomiyasu and Tierney. They lost Partey, their best CM. And then Lacazette was out too. Like, yeah, he's not been great, but he's our fucking senior centre-forward captain. So, like, you tell me what other team in this Premier League would have both their fullbacks. And if Liverpool lost Trent, Robertson and Thiago, you show me how many points they would drop in the league. They lost just Van Dijk that season. They dropped 20 points on the season before. So I just thought it was all reactionary. I thought it was ridiculous the way people were talking about Arsenal like we were done out here. And I'm just going to be honest. Like, I'm glad that, they showed that, yeah, a young squad will drop points. A young squad will make mistakes. Yes, a young squad needs to grow and learn. But when it came down to it, when it was an important game, and when Arteta told them, this is the game in hand, if you want top 4, you have to go to places like Stamford Bridge and win, and they pull out a performance like that, then I'm like, okay, anyone who's selling Saka now is beyond bonkers in my opinion. Like, he is literally like the talisman, the best player in the team. There's no doubt about that for me personally. He's got an insane ownership. And he has a juicy double that includes Leeds plus a North London derby tie that could decide the top 4 against Spurs in 36. It's like, I can't see a world where people are selling him. It's actually mad for me. Like, it's actually mad.
I mean, the previous performances, I think, certainly had people concerned with Arsenal. I don't know if I saw any circles where people were writing Arsenal off or saying that they weren't going to be in the top 4. I mean, there was still...
Mate, we lost our first game. After our first loss in that run of 3 losses, Sky News said it was something like, is this the beginning of the end for Arsenal's season? That was the headline. When Spurs lost like 4 games in 6, or when Chelsea lost 3 home games out of 4, There was no such headlines.
But I mean, I think if we're going to be fair as well, we have to say, that match against, I mean, the Forcersaurus kind of prevented you guys from winning that match. His lights out display.
I don't know how he
Southampton.
played. I saw the stats. So every week we were looking at stats. So you know what I saw? We had 2 goals from 72 shots, and our opponents had 8 goals from 13 shots. What the fuck are you gonna do in that scenario? Like, we don't have a goal scoring forward. Like, we literally don't have.
I mean, but you haven't had one all season, right? So I would say that any one of those 3 games, maybe all of those 3 games, were the games to win. Like you win those games, and then the Chelsea game there's less pressure and stuff like that. But I mean, let's get to that Chelsea Arsenal game. That was not a good game of football.
Oh,
That was
teams were like
crap. Both
conceding
teams
goals.
are absolute shit, and I would actually say like that third place, 4th place. These are not good teams right now. In general, I think Arsenal and Chelsea are probably, like, in general in terms of squad construction, probably a little bit above Spurs, but based
I
on
think
recent
long term, yeah. In terms of
long
not for
term,
this
yeah.
season, like in
No,
terms
no.
of like the trajectory going forwards. Let's say like
Correct.
United's the bottom of all of them. That
Right now.
Got, Ten Hag wants 10 players. He's not going to get them in one window. It's going to take multiple. So there's that. Spurs want 6 players. Conte just came out and said, and Arsenal do want 4 to 6 players minimum too with the outgoing. So I think all 3 of those clubs have massive time to go yet. But Chelsea, they should be ashamed of themselves. I'm sorry. Like, this is a team that was like, the reason Tuchel's coming out with these quotes is he wants us to forget they were title challengers. They were title challengers this year. I'm sorry. They were title challengers. They were ready to fight for a title. They're Champions League winners, and to be falling apart like this, that is shocking. I'll be honest.
I don't know. I disagree. I don't think it's that shocking. I mean, I think they're on the 3rd place beach, and I can understand why.
But they're like 2 losses away from not even making top 4. That loss against Arsenal.
Well, we can talk about that if and when it happens. I mean, right now they have it locked up and it's fine. And then they have also had a lot of injuries this season. So to get 3rd place locked up pretty early is fine. But I mean, that game was what I just want to say, it was a terrible game of football. All the goals came from just ridiculous mistakes. There was one moment of brilliance, and that was the penalty kick. That was just genius by Saka. What Saka did to Azpilicueta. What he did to Azpilicueta. Azpilicueta is a wily, wise defender, and for Saka, this kid, to do that to that veteran was just a stroke of genius. I tip my hat off to that guy. That was the best penalty one that I've seen in a long time. So
did
really,
you see Azpilicueta
bravo.
going to the Chelsea fans at the end of the game and having a fight with them, and the Chelsea fans put his middle finger up at him as he left? Yeah, I was like, wow, mate. Like,
he's done.
This is like triggered you massively. And then Tuchel's quotes were, "We scored 2 goals and 3 own goals, so the game ended 4-2." And I'm like,
he's right.
I'm like, okay,
He's right.
yeah, so it ended 4-2, mate. Like,
well,
you just fucking said it. Like,
actually, the Chelsea, they were gifts from you guys as well. You guys were just gifting each other goals, and then Saka takes his penalty. That's why everything in that game was a gift except for Saka. Saka took, which I liked.
I was genuinely terrified when I saw him grab that ball. I'd be like, no. I was like, and I'm sure Arteta said it in the press. He was like, my instant thought was the bloody Euros final. And I was like, oh my God, oh my Lord. I was like, thank God we're winning regardless of whether he misses. But to take that ball, to pick it up, it was destiny. I'm glad to see him get that goal, and hopefully he can kick on from here. But okay, we talked about Arsenal. I guess the long story short there is I still believe what I said last week, which I said to 3 hitters, which is I think it's Saka or bust. I don't think you want any other one of our players. I don't go near them. Just very briefly talking about the FDR of, I think, let's talk about Leicester, Everton, and Villa, because those guys are like the people who are bench boosting, will want to get on their wild card this week potentially. Leicester have 2 good home fixtures in 36. Everton have a double-double, as does Leicester in 36 and 37. Villa has a double-double, so they're great assets either way. But equally, like, they have pretty nice fixtures when the bench boost week is kind of being touted. So is there kind of, firstly, any of them here that from the long range FDR that appeal to you? Because when you look at Everton, right? Well, this week, firstly, is Liverpool, so let's not even look at that FDR. It's the worst in attack and defense of every team. But when you look at the, what is it, minus 11.2 is that in the long range from 35 to 38, and minus 7.6 in defense in 35 to 38, That's not great. Then you look at Leicester themselves. They're a little bit different to that. They're 1.8 in the long term and for attack and -3 for the defense. Villa, on the other hand, they're 1.8 for attack and -1. So really, none of the three teams look good, do they, in the long range FDR? But they're almost like the enablers that we need if we want a team filled with Liverpool, City, Chelsea. Now we need them, but is there any of those three that, from an FDR perspective, that you would be prioritizing? Because like you got the likes of, say, Richarlison, Watkins, Coutinho, Maddison, Barnes. Any defenses there like Cash, Justin? Trying to think of who else you could go for. I wouldn't go for an Everton defender, but yeah.
If you're going for defenders, there's such high upside on the premium defenders right now that going for these budget defenders, I don't think makes much sense. I mean, Cash is not a budget defender.
Yeah.
Skip the defense. I would anyway. And for me, like these teams, they're only glue guys. So that the cheaper the better. You know, you have your Gordon and your Ramsey, and that's probably it for me. In my opinion, they're the only two. Yeah, and I own both of them. I'm happy to own them. They have the doubles. Even though I think it's Everton have, what is it? Yeah, 36. They have Leicester away and Watford away, and Everton are really putrid away. So that's not so great. Even though
I think their 37 is where it's exciting. So it's Brentford home, Crystal Palace home. I think if you're gonna free hit 37, if the City fixture falls into 37. You could kind of just do with not buying the Everton players at all, is what the FDR is telling me, but maybe punt on them in that one double on a free hit.
Right.
And that's about it. And if you're only going to have one and you're going to keep them and you're not free hitting, just get Gordon, I think.
Yeah.
There are people talking about captaining Richarlison in Gameweek 37, but we're a long way from there, so we won't even entertain that. The rest of the teams in here that we've not discussed that I don't think we're going to are Brentford, Brighton, Burnley, Palace, Leeds, Newcastle, Norwich, Southampton, Watford, Wolves. There isn't a single one of those teams I read out that I would be looking to buy assets from. Maybe you want a Palace player for double game week 37. Mateta didn't even start the last game. He was a great enabler, but I'm not even that excited anymore about him. Cucho Hernandez from Watford, he's injured, so maybe you want to jar Pedro on a wild card for a bench boost in 36. Watford do have an okay double in 36, but really all the other teams I just listed, you probably have like maybe some of their players, like how I have Weghorst, but you're probably also looking to just move them on and sell them. And their FDRs aren't great. I wouldn't be looking to buy them. Like all of their FDRs I'm looking now look as mediocre as it comes in the long term, and also this week. So I just think those teams are not worth wasting our time on. So let's move straight on from there to the zonals. We'll do very brief zonals for a few minutes. And then from there, let's go into Rumi pick, captaincy, and the questions, because I think we're trying to do 1 out of 15 if we can. And there seems to be quite a lot of questions this week on Twitter, so we'll get to them. With zonals, is there anything that kind of screams out to you that maybe you could use for captaincy? Like when we look at Chelsea centre 4.5, Havertz is rested. Is he the one we captain if we're not going to captain Salah? Is he the one we break our team for? 4.5 and 3.7, 7 in total for the double. That's disgustingly good, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean Chelsea down the center 7, but even Chelsea down the left 7.6, even a little bit better. So
is that Werner?
Is that Werner?
Oh shit!
Exactly.
So either one feels like a very exciting captain with massive upside. My worry with Werner is I do wonder if he could get like benched in one of those two, because he's also played a lot. I think that Havertz rest. Because I wasn't even looking at Havertz. I was like, I'm definitely going to get Mount. I'm going to get Mount and Werner. Werner will be my kind of higher risk pick. But the Havertz rest, now I'm like, I'm all over Havertz, even if it means I can't get James. Laporte and Havertz, captain Havertz. Let's go. I think that's me sorted. Game week this, and then I go to Fest tomorrow, and you see that I post like a -8 while I'm drunk. There's a -8 where I sell Richarlison, Weghorst, Barnes, and Rudiger, and I get Pukki, Werner, Havertz, and Alonso. It's some disgusting -8, but if I get drunk enough, I might do it.
I would say Werner's young, and he's known for having a motor, right? He's known for his speed, and he just constantly runs. He's started the last 5 league matches, but he's only played about 60-some minutes in 2 of them. and he hasn't had a really grueling season overall. He's been rested quite a lot in the league. So I think overall, when you take the season as a whole, I wouldn't expect the physical toll to be too high on him. And if they're trying to, if Chelsea's solidified third place and they're looking towards next season, they have to start developing something between Werner and Havertz, or Werner maybe even Lukaku. Probably Werner in that kind of Lautaro Martinez role that was played at Inter before Lukaku came. So I don't know if I expect Werner to be rested. Actually, I think they're going to play him for the rest of the season. They want to kind of build him up, maybe improve his finishing and improve his chemistry with the team.
So how about this? Would you sell Ronaldo for Werner, even though we've just said all that stuff about how he's like ready for blood against Arsenal and Chelsea?
If it looks like he's going to start the first match, then no.
And I guess it's the first kickoff, so if there was any kind of early news on Saturday morning that implied Ronaldo was not in that squad, I feel like I would be all over that.
Do it.
Ronaldo straight to Werner,
Yes.
Free up a shit ton of funds, buy James, buy Havertz, get all free for a -4, and just go balls deep into the double gaming. But
Well,
we'll come
you have
to
to sell
Man City
Rudiger,
later.
so it would be a -8.
Yeah. Oh, no, it'll be a -4. I've got 2 free transfers.
But you have Rudiger, right?
So I'd sell Rudiger for James, Barnes for Havertz, and Ronaldo for Werner.
I see. Oh,
Yeah, that's what I
okay.
go balls deep.
Balls deep.
Yeah. Oh, we'll come to the balls deep in a moment. I was just seeing if there's any other zonals here that are worth a little shout. I guess Brighton Centre, but if you own Morpay, like I'd be a bit worried now. We've got Arsenal Centre. I think this is worth a cheeky mention. 3.9 this week. 19 for the final stretch. I guess it really comes down to, do you think Lacazette wins his space back against Eddie and Nketiah? Now, they both got contracts that expire this summer. There was talks that Lacazette wants to go to Lyon, wants to play in the Champions League and all this stuff. The coach had said to him, we'll look at contract situation. We might offer you like a year plus an optional year in the summer based on outgoings. The difference is Eddie has had a contract offer on the table for months, unlike Lacazette, and he's just chosen not to sign it because he doesn't feel reassured about minutes. Now, Arteta came out with a quote, and I thought I'd just read this out, and I think it's a pretty daring quote if you ask me. So, I don't think many coaches would admit to mistakes like this, but he essentially said, if there is one player I have been unfair on with, it's him, Eddie Nketiah. He has given me every right to do something different. So if Eddie hasn't played more, it's my fault. I have missed something, or I haven't had the courage. He showed me again how wrong I was. And I look at that and I think, can you bench a player who just scored a brace at Stamford Bridge when you're trying to beg him to stay and sign a contract, but the other striker who's leaving for free and giving bullshit quotes to the media, you're going to just start him because he's like the senior player? Or do you play the 5.4 million forward who has one of the best central FDRs for the rest of the season? And now if you're on wildcard, do you get Nketiah instead of a fucking Mateta? That's my question, because I think if Eddie can keep that spot, if he can get the minutes for the rest of the season to convince him to stay, he could be a really dark rogue not captaincy, sorry. Just punt, no captaincy, just punt. What are your thoughts on that? Because obviously the FDR, the zonals anyway, they seem to favour the centre, and that quote from Arteta I think is quite telling. He kind of almost paints this picture of that he made a massive mistake.
Arsenal have been saying for years, this goes way back to when they were still loaning Nketiah out to the Championship, that Nketiah is the future. And they never act on it in the season. So I feel like I've heard, I don't think it's been quite like this, the talk around Nketiah, but I've heard this before many, many times. So I don't really trust that they're going to all of a sudden rely on their future when they're not even willing to guarantee that future playing time in the future. So I think there's a little inconsistency
but I
there.
think it's the guarantee issue. I think he's literally saying, because I'm not playing, I won't sign.
But that's what
He's like, I want to play. He's like, I
but
want to start games.
that's what I'm saying. So the club won't guarantee him that playing time. They won't give him that playing
But
time.
will they
They
now? That's my
haven't.
question.
Will
So
they
do
now?
we think
But
he might?
that's I think that's my point.
Or is
And
it too little too late? Does he want to go to
if
Germany and get lots of minutes? Like,
if they will now, they should tell him already so he signs the contract before he gets even better, and maybe you have to pay more for him, right? And he wants a bigger contract. So
yeah.
the fact that Arsenal have not offered him just like the starting spot, Lacazette does not score those goals that Nketiah scored yesterday.
No, but I think
Or
also
the other day.
Nketiah has been like known as a poacher, but that goal he scored, the first one, it was very different to what people know him as. He showed that he can do more than just poach.
Yeah.
Because he's been known as like the fox in the box, score from 4 yards out. But that first goal, I was
I
really impressed.
I thought there was a play after that showed even his ability even more, and it was I forget who was on the right side. It might have been, well, I don't remember, but somebody on the right side, on the right flank, sent this blistering diagonal ball into the middle as Nketiah was checking in checking in the midfield to receive it. And the way he controlled it and his hold-up play in that game was really good. And I had never seen that from him before.
That's
So
what I mean. He showed stuff I've never seen. I was really shocked.
Yeah, I was impressed. But the other thing to note is Lacazette, he's the team captain, whatever that means. So I like the shout. I think it's bold, and I think it really could pay off. And I think Nketiah should be the starter for the rest of the season. Similarly to like Chelsea, like we were saying with Chelsea, that they should start the younger players. They should start building towards next season. I think they should do the same with Eddie, and I think he'd be a great call.
I think if I was on wildcard or if I had Weghorst like Kevin does, I think it's a nice move. The fear is that like maybe he gets this next game, but then could he lose his place if he starts underperforming, which he could. Obviously, young players are not consistent. I think the only argument I see for not having him on wildcard is the people who are bench boosting, they can't risk that by game week 36 double he's not the starter. Now, if you're not bench boosting, and you've got bench players, I don't see why you couldn't just move from Weghorst to Nketiah, and if he doesn't play, or if you think there's a week where he's likely not to play because you look like he's lost his spot again, you just put him on your bench. He's 5.4 mil. Like, it's fine. So I think that's my mentality there. But I just want to call that out because there were some questions on Twitter about him too, and I think Mariner is looking at him too, so he'll be very angry that we've drawn such a spotlight to this, because maybe OR 1 to 20 listened to this episode and they're going to buy Nketiah to block Mariner's rise to first place, but hopefully not. Is there anyone else you want to mention? Like, Wolves have a good FDR, but I'm not buying their players. Liverpool and City and Chelsea we've already spoken about, so let's not really go into them. Is there anyone else I'm seeing? Norwich, Pookie, people are buying him. 2.3 FDR this week in the center. 14.8 in the center in the long term. That's not bad considering he's 6 mil and he's from a pretty bad team, but I think for me, unless you're bench boosting, I don't see why you would buy Pookie. I'd just spend less.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of my thoughts there. So let's go to the Rumi pick of the week. We talked about my man here a few times. So Timo fucking Werner, as you've put it.
So lately it's just been such a slog for me in FPL. It's been awful. So I'm reminded of this Seinfeld episode where George Costanza realizes that everything he had done in his life had been wrong, right? So I was thinking, if what he says, that if everything you do is wrong, then the opposite would have to be right. And Timo Werner is a player that I would never select. I've had a lot of ridicule and criticism for. So this is like the Rumi picks have been kind of in the trash, dumpster fires lately. So I'm going completely the opposite, somebody completely against my intuition. And the quote for the Rumi pick is, it's talking about fear. Fear is non-acceptance of uncertainty. If we accept that uncertainty, it becomes an adventure. So let's see if the uncertainty of Timo Werner's abysmal finishing can somehow miraculously land us returns in an adventure.
Ooh, you're getting me hyped. So I've just had a look. Ronaldo to
I did this with Saint-Maximin last week, and it was Bruno Guimaraes that comes through with it. I did it for Mahrez before, and it was Raheem Sterling that comes through with the hauls, and Mahrez gets benched. So Timo Werner, watch Christian Pulisic come out and brace or some shit like that. I don't know.
All right, I think I've got the team ready, man. Ronaldo to Werner, Barnes to Havertz, and Rudiger to Cancelo. 2.7 million in the bank. 4-point hit. Let's go. All right, but I don't think I'm selling Ronaldo, so we'll get there too when we get there. So, okay, no, I really like that pick. We talked about him more. Anyone who's jumped straight to the Rumi pick timestamp, do go back to the FDR. We talk quite a lot about Chelsea. They're the first team we talk about in the FDR, so you will get lots of info there. So, just to quickly play this video about our strategic partnership with our friends over at AllaboutFPL.com, and then I'm going to go and get my Lawnmower 4.0 ready as well.
Are you craving more FPL content? Then look no further than AllaboutFPL.com. Head over there for weekly articles from some of the top content creators on the planet. So what are you waiting for? Head over to AllaboutFPL.com, the website for all your FPL needs.
All right, so I just thought I'd put a shout out to our friends over at Manscaped. Obviously, hashtag ad for anyone who doesn't know. Support for Net That Haul in April has been brought to you by Manscaped. They're the best in men's below-the-waist grooming, champions of the world. Manscaped offer precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. So we've obviously been quite fortunate. We were gifted the 4th-generation trimmer, the Lawnmower 4.0. You heard that right, guys, 4.0. So join us and over 4 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped. Use our NTH20 exclusive offer on manscaped.com and you'll get 20% off and free worldwide shipping. So I think obviously do use it. I know a few people on Twitter have messaged us and told us they've, delighted their partners, wives, boyfriends, husbands, whatever it might be, with, upgrading their hygiene routine. I know we've also said that over the last month. We've talked about this in each episode. These products have kind of changed our lives. They've been game changing, right, Gabe?
Absolutely. I mean, you are as good as your tools. So as I think there's a proverb that says that somewhere. So if we have the manscaping philosophy is you are as good as your tools. So get the best tools in the business to take care of your business. So.
And it's not just the best tools, right? Like imagine shaving with this sleek, well-designed, optimized trimmer. For me, right, it's made shaving time my favorite time in the bathroom. Like it's number one now. Like, and it's got the little torch. I don't know if you've seen that. I love
that little
torch.
Flashlight. Yeah.
Oh man, that's amazing. I know, like, how creative can you be? Like, I never thought about that, but yeah, I think I've been blown away by the performance, the craftsmanship and detail are next level. It is definitely the ultimate groin and body trimmer I've ever come across. I think I've said this on prior episodes. I was always cutting myself, getting nicks. I've been using this for a good month now. Not a single nick, no cuts. It just feels like they've really thought this through and they've made sure that like it's the tool for the modern man. And like your balls will thank you. I think that's the key thing I'm trying to get out here.
They will applaud, they will thank you, they will sing, and they will rejoice. You'll have all the things.
And I think I said this last time. I feel like I know some people make this mistake, but gentlemen, if you've been shaving with your nut trimmer on your face, you have been doing it wrong, guys. Like no one wants pubes in their mouth. So upgrade your hygiene routine. Use NTH20 on manscaped.com. Get your 20% off and get your free shipping. So thanks again for their support on the show over the last month. And I think it's time to go to the very exciting captaincy metric from here. So still at a 78% success rate. We've got Bruno on here. I feel like Marin almost done that either subconsciously or on purpose to wind you up. I'll let you decide which. But before we get the numbers up, let's play the little jingle. All right, the Gameweek 34 captaincy metric.
Single game week.
You have to go quite far down, like to get to the first double game weekers, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
Considerably far down. So for the podcast listeners, I don't know if you want to quickly shout out the top 5 and the lack of Chelsea players in them, but
here we go with the top 5 in the captaincy metric. Let's see. Trent Alexander-Arnold comes in at number 5 at 117. We have Jota at number 4 at 119. Kevin De Bruyne at 131. Sadio Mane number 2 with 133. And to nobody's surprise, Mohamed Salah 135 on the captaincy metric in a single game week. Remember when we were doing the double game weeks before and Salah was down in the 90s and we had only the double game week players with 130? Well, now they're hosting Everton. Everton away is absolutely abysmal. Salah wants as many goals as possible. He wants to break some records. So he's up there at 135.
I think that United game bounced him back to life, didn't it? It's like 9-0 on aggregate, 5 goals and 2 assists from Salah. Yeah, like my United friends, like, yeah, I don't know, like, I think they're dead inside right now, but fair play to them for still supporting. So just another bit, guys, let us know if this is what you intended. So last week you were giving us some feedback that you'd love to have both the teams on the FDRs and the captains on the Captaincy Metric on the right column and the left column, so it's just a bit easier to read the tables. So please do let us know if you're happy with that. I think Mariner also put out a question to the members only in the community tab about what else you'd like to see from the data next season, so we can start to get the tools working better for you. So please honestly be very constructive and give us any feedback you have. So I'm currently on Salah captain in my bus team. Ronaldo's my vice captain. He's like nowhere to be seen here. He's right rock bottom on 85, probably because of his opponents. But that aside, I do feel like Salah is going to be like obviously by far the most captain this week. But I do think that like I've always been someone who likes to captain double game week players in a double. And I just really like that extra 180 minutes if you can get it. So I think with Havertz being benched, I do think that the captaincy metric many weeks, like we've had it before where Chelsea had a double that week where James hauled in Gameweek 28, I think it was, and they were very far down. And I do think it may be Mariner, maybe, no offense to you, mate. You are OR21, so you know what you're doing. But I do think the captaincy metric is a little bit skewed against double game weekers where it doesn't account enough for what they can do. Because, you know, like if you're telling me that Chris Wood last week was like the 3rd highest pick in this metric, but then like arrested Havertz isn't even here, I do think that it's not giving enough weight to the premium players from the premium teams when they have a double. And obviously like the rotation and stuff here probably has a big factor to play in it, right? So, you know, like I assume that we know Tuchel likes to rotate, so maybe he's put their rotation numbers down a bit, so the X minutes might be low on them. Perhaps that's why they're so far down. Equally, I guess what this shows is like you don't need to rip up your team to not captain Salah. Like if you already own Salah, maybe you just need 1 or 2 Chelsea players for this double and that's it. Because the players you buy now, are they even going to play the double in 36? So there's been a lot of talk about the FA Cup final being a few days after the Leeds game and they're double in 36. So, you know, are a lot of the first team Chelsea players, if the top 3 is wrapped up by then, are they just going to be rested against Leeds? Probably. So I think in that scenario, like, are you really going to go completely all in, 3 players, and then like 2 of them don't start against Leeds in 36? So for me, I've gone from wanting 3 Chelsea players to my 1 Chelsea player being injured, and maybe I'll only end up after the deadline with 1, at most 2 of them. So in that sense, I agree with the metric, but I also like to chase the upside of, I do think Havertz playing so far up the pitch, out of position, arrested. You know, they're playing a pretty knackered West Ham with 1 fit senior centre-back. Diop's out, Zuma's out. They're prioritising the Europa. There's just so much that appeals to me to punt on that Havertz or Werner captaincy. And I just, like, I know it goes against my normal EO play. You know me as that kind of EO guy. But with 5 weeks to go, like, I just feel like if there was ever a time to go for it, like this is it. Like, so there is that big temptation for me. And also, there's nothing to say Salah won't be rested a little bit against Everton. That's what I was saying about Robbo. Well, Robbo more likely, I think, with Simicaz. But equally, their front 5 are all great, right? And they've never had more options than they have in attack than now. Like,
but it's a derby, and Salah wants the record, and he just wants to score goals, and Klopp is going to give him every opportunity. So I don't see Salah really being rested. Unless maybe he comes off in the 80th minute or to protect them or something like that.
So don't not captain him because you think he's benched.
No,
captain him because you think Chelsea's going to outscore him. Okay.
Yeah, and I think you bring up a good point, and it's something that the captaincy metric cannot take into account. Despite it, you know, it tries with the factoring in rotation and all of that, but sometimes, like you're saying, Nima, rotation is a good thing. We know Havertz had played many games consecutively, so that rotation in the past match, it could be a good thing for him in the next 2. And then just the context of that you were saying about West Ham, where West Ham are coming from with 1 fit starting center back or starting defender. the focus on the Europa League, how tired they are, the fact that they could pretty much be on the beach right now, and Chelsea will want to end at least positively and end this season positively, even if they do have third secured. So I think the Havertz shout is a great one. I think James is a sneaky
I like James
shout as well.
I think just the lack of
captaincy.
Rudiger scares me a bit, but you are right. Like that is a very exciting captaincy. Like everyone was talking about double defense before the recent injuries, right? Oh my God, it's 3-0 Burnley. Please, someone tell me it's Weghorst.
Wow.
My app doesn't show who scored yet, but if Weghorst has not scored here, like, come on, mate. Like, sort yourself out. You got me like a dead captaincy in game week 27. I wild carded you out. I hit you in when Jimenez got his red.
Jack
Come
Cork.
on, man.
Jack Cork.
Fuck me, Jack. It's not even Jay Rodriguez for my goddamn head-to-head against fucking FPL Salah, is it?
Roberts, Collins, and Cork. Look at that. Two assists by Brownhill. It's funny.
Unbelievable. This is disgraceful. Someone wipe that Pope clean sheet while they're at it, guys, and it better not be Broha. But
Let's go, bro. Yeah, we need you.
is there? I'm just trying to see. I guess De Bruyne. That's a very interesting one because we were talking about
Yeah.
like, would you potentially have him over Bruno and Wildcard and stuff? I think this kind of paints its own story. He's up there at 131 in touching distance of both Salah and Mane, and for me, I just feel like City assets at the moment doesn't really get any better, right? Like they're the best team. They're fighting for the title, and they have incredible fixtures coming up. So I love the kind of the City players. I think we should be perhaps more focused on them, and that's why I'm not as hot on tripling up on Chelsea because I'd rather use one of those moves if possible to get a City player this week. Even if they don't have a double, I'm happy with the one fixture.
Goal rescinded. VAR offside, by the way.
Mine says VAR goal review, and then it says Jay Rodriguez.
Down to 2. Down to 2-0 over
gone-
on my
oh,
end.
it's
Confirmed
gone
by
light
some of
now.
the. So yeah, and I did a quick free hit draft. So one of the haulers asked me to do a quick draft for him. Akib's probably in the chat there, and De Bruyne was in it. I have De Bruyne, Mount, Salah, and Bruno Guimaraes as my midfield 4, and I have it in a 4-4-2. So yeah, I think De Bruyne is one of the best picks this week as well.
I'm glad. I wish I could get to him, mate. Sadly, I can't though. I'm not on a wild card. I'm not on a free hit, and I'm trying to get Havertz and maybe captain him. So let's go to the Twitter questions because we've already gone over the 1 hour 15. If you've got any questions in the live chat, guys, please do get them in. I'm going to start reading out some questions from Twitter in the meantime, but do please get your questions in, guys. So on Twitter, I'll start working through these. A lot of these we might have answered, so I might just signpost them to the timestamp. So Akib asks, if you have 2 free hits intact with bench boost, will you use 1 free hit this week? Yes. I would use 1 this week, bench boost in 36, and probably free hit in 37 or 38. So I'd definitely do that. You can't use it in consecutive weeks to 2 of them, so I feel like you've got to go for it. And there's enough upside between the City, Chelsea, and Liverpool players this week. There's enough upside. Yes, Adams is on. Okay. All right, mate. There we go. Roberts is blocked on as his bench, mate. Blocked. Lock off, mate. Lock off as. All right. He also asked what players should be nailed. So Akib, it should be like Salah, Robert, Trent, KDB, Cancelo, Laporte, Havertz, Werner, James. That's your free hit done, mate. I don't know if you can afford it, but good luck. That's literally the free hit team. You ask who are the nailed players? It's Chelsea, City, Liverpool. That's your nailed players for the free hit. There you go.
I'll run through just the starting lineup that I gave him. It's a 4-4-2. I have James, Trent, Robbo, and Cancelo in the back. De Bruyne, Mount, Salah, and Bruno Guimaraes. And I kept Saint-Maximin and against Norwich, and Timo Werner up top.
I like that. Yeah, no,
that was really quick. A really quick free hit team there.
We got FPL Dallas, Coutinho, and Cash, or Foden and a 4.4 million defender. I'm on a wild card and I'm on a bench boost in 36. See, for a bench boost, Coutinho and Cash is pretty appealing. I would still wait, obviously, until like tomorrow. Most of the double game week announcements recently have been on a Friday. So if they are going to announce this before the deadline when City play against Wolves, it will be tomorrow. And if we find out that, let's say, City don't double in 36, maybe you go for the Coutinho and cash option and bench boost, and then you try to get to the City player by 37 when they double. If City double in 36, I would go for Foden in the 4.4 mil. What 4.4 mil defender? Lord knows. I would say Ben White, but I don't think he's that cheap. I would say Tomiyasu. I don't think he's that cheap. There is not many 4.4 million and below defenders I would want as a bench boost in 36.
So I would probably do Foden and the 4-4, and the 4-4 that I would look at is probably like someone like Ben Davies.
Ben Davies. Actually, yeah, he's as
He's
nailed as it gets.
he's got some other good fixtures. He's got Burnley and Norwich and 37 and 38. You know, the double isn't great, Liverpool and Arsenal. But
I'd
whatever.
rather have the City mid if they're going to double, right?
Yeah.
Cool. Is Eddie essential from Mike Halpin? There was a whole section about Eddie, mate.
Yeah.
You go find it, but there was a section about Eddie, I promise.
For a gunner like you, Mike, yes.
Yes. Big shout out to Nehal, yeah. Thank you, Nehal. Long time friend of the show and now a hauler, our latest member. So thank you so much for your support, Nehal.
Longtime friend on Twitter as well. We've interacted a lot with Nehal, so really appreciate the support. And
Nehal's question will be the first question from the live chat. Once we get through a few more from Twitter, just a few left. Well, I say a few left, there's quite a few left. Asake, I'm on a wild card. Rudiger and Mount stay still. That was 10 hours ago. I don't know if Rudiger stays still anymore, mate. But and he is a Chelsea fan. He's a good friend. We chat a lot in the DMs. Should I keep Barnes and Saka plus by Werner or double Chelsea? So he's basically saying, should I get Mount and Havertz?
But he'd have to sell Saka to do it.
Well, it says, should I keep Barnes and Saka and buy Werner? So if I was him, I would do Barnes to Havertz and keep Saka.
Barnes to Havertz for the short-term pick, like you mentioned earlier, that Zoff mentioned. And then Barnes to Mount for a longer-term pick, right?
Yeah, I think either one is good. It just depends whether... And he says Mount is nailed. So in that scenario, I think then actually maybe you do have to just get rid of Barnes, get Mount. I wouldn't keep Barnes on your wild card regardless.
Right.
His ownership is low. We don't even think he'll play the doubles in 36 with the Leicester Conference League happening either side. And yeah, I don't like. I think we should run and be happy we got those points we got from him. If he can get kind of Werner, Mount, and keep Saka, that would be my preference. With Rudiger out, can you get to James? So let us know. FPL robots. Should I captain Salah or a Chelsea mid? Probably Mount if I'm chasing rank. Go back to the captaincy metric part on the timestamps, robots, and you will hear about that. Robots also asked, is it worth taking a -4 to change Thiago Silva to Alonso? Absolutely not. If I was on free hit this week, I'd pick Thiago Silva over Alonso, as we said previously, for the goal threat. And the fact that, Rudiger is out, Thiago Silva is going to be the main target man for those all the corners and set pieces into the box. So I would not be getting rid of him. Carrick Low, Carrick Just FPL, he asked, Thiago Silva still worth to keep or to drop? I think just for this week, I probably would. Long term, I wouldn't.
I have him and I'm keeping him.
Yeah, I would keep him this week. He says, I have no City asset yet. Me and you both, mate. Should we drop or keep either one, Kane or Son? So he's got both, and he's kept them through last week. This week, their FDR wasn't great. I would keep Son, personally, and I would probably just move Kane on. You could do Kane to Werner this week, or you could keep, the plan and do Kane to Watkins when he has a double-double, maybe something like that. But I don't think I'd keep both till the end of the season, Kane and Son. I feel that's too much money tied up when we want a City attacker. And then he says, number 2, to drop and replace Werner plus Havertz or Mount, or just Havertz plus Mount. I prefer Werner plus one of Havertz and Mount than Havertz and Mount personally, but I think either option is great.
Depends on your team structure, depends what's easier and chips and plans.
Exactly. Yeah. So Craig, FPL_CP, he asked, he's seen, obviously he's a member, so he's seen the 7.2 FDR for Liverpool versus Everton, and in the captaincy discussion, there was no doubles near the top. His question was, Nketiah had 2 great goals yesterday, 2 great strikes. What do you think? So we talked about Nketiah as well. I would say go back and have a look. Like, obviously, we don't want people to know about him. Matt, I want him, but so Matt L to James or not to James. I think yes. Like if he's your only Chelsea defender, I would get James and keep him for the season. Mariner has a question: Werner and Son or Kane and Mount? Wow. Okay. Yeah. That's a kicker.
It makes me
Are
nervous.
you a socks on guy or socks off when you have sex?
It makes me nervous to give Mariner advice. He's ranked 21. I feel like if you take my advice, Mariner, don't take my advice. That's my advice.
So if you wear socks on while you have sex, it's Kane and Mount all day. And if
Socks
you take
on?
your
What are you,
socks off, and
Psycho? What's wrong with you?
socks on are like the guys who like me, captain high EO players, buy the high EO
I
players.
see.
Just keep your socks on and live life in a very beige color.
If
Now,
you keep
you want
socks
excitement,
on during that, then you are not using Manscaped products. I'll tell you that right now.
exactly. Now, if you like take your socks off and you want to do the full Kama Sutra like we said about Saint Maximan last week, I think Werner and Son is for you, mate. Werner and Son.
Werner and Son, I agree.
I think so. Craig, I'm getting serious deja vu from a couple of months ago when we all wanted Chelsea defense. The decision was impossible to make. I have James. I feel like moving him sideways to Rudiger. I don't think with the latest news that's wise, or switching to Laporte next week. Chelsea or no Chelsea defense? I think if you've got
Keep
James now, you
switch
keep
to
him.
Laporte. Yeah.
And then next week you can move to Laporte if you want. Final 3 questions on Twitter. Natajak, buy Mount for sure, but I'm going with Kane plus Havertz plus Alonso or Son plus Werner plus James.
Son, Werner, James.
I love that one. FPL Duval, Greek god FPL. Let us know what god you would be. Are you more of like a Hades or a Zeus or a Poseidon? But he says, should I
Or a
get Timo,
Dionysus.
Werner, or Havertz? Yeah.
Aphrodite.
Or
I don't know.
Theseus. I don't know. There's a few good ones out there. Some rogue ones that people don't know. Timo Werner or Kai Havertz. So he says, which is the better Chelsea midfield option? Well, I'm sorry to break it to you, Duval.
Kai
But,
is.
Kai is the best midfielder because he's the only one that's a midfielder in FPL anyway.
Yeah.
Having been rested, I would buy Kai. I would consider captaining him. I think he's vital, and Lukaku was shocking. So there's no threat there. And then Connor Hunt, the final question before we go to the live chat questions. Can you go City mid over Sun for 34 to 36? Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely, mate. City, I'm shocked that people are not trying to double and triple up on them just because there's doubles that they're prioritizing first. So that's that done. Let's oh damn, Pope just saved one from point blank from Adams as soon as he subbed on. So Nehal, his question we said we get to first. So Rudiger to Alonso, Martinelli to Mount. He already has Havertz. Weghorst to Gelhardt. I assume Weghorst to Gelhardt is to fund it all. Does this hit pay off in 3 game weeks? So Rudiger to Alonso, so you save about 0.7 there, depending on when you bought Rudiger. Martinelli to Mount, you spend about 2 million more. And then I guess Veggie to Gelhardt saves the 2 million. So that's where the 2 million is going. -8 is a bit extreme, but if people are wildcarding this week to get players that you're going to want for the rest of the season and you don't have, doing it 1 week earlier now, there's far more chance of it paying off. If you kind of limp it and do a -4 now and then end up having to take another -4 to buy these players later, is not ideal. Equally, who are your other 2 bench players? Because if you're bringing in Gelhardt, I need to feel like you have someone else on the bench in case rotation strikes in your starting 11. Because, if you've got like Amity, Gelhardt, and God knows who else, that might be a bit much taking a -8 to have 0 bench left, right?
I don't like this move at all, really.
And he already has Havertz. It's
you're-
like, do you really need to go that deep on Mount?
And then and you're paying, you're like going Alonso to get there. You're bringing in Alonso and a non-starting player in Gelhardt for a -8, basically to upgrade
too
Martinelli
painful
to
for me.
Mount. So I say forget about Mount. You already have Havertz. If anything, maybe downgrade Rudiger to somebody, I don't know, one of the budget defenders, and then upgrade Gelhardt to Werner for a -4.
So he's got the
I would.
Weghorst to Werner, so he's saying that, but this is a -8 as well. So this includes Saka to Mount. I think look, you need to get Mount out of your head, Nate, how mate.
Yeah.
I say he's gonna get 21 points, I'm sure, but you've got Havertz, you've got the more exciting pick for the short term. Mount is a long term pick, fair play, he is. But do you have a free hit? Like, are you gonna potentially free hit in the next Chelsea double anyway? So could you just free hit in the Chelsea player? And if so, does that mean you're taking this massive hit just for this one double?
You know what he could do? He could do Weghorst to Werner and Rudiger to Chalobah.
That would be sexy if you can afford that, because Chalobah should start.
He should start. I think Chalobah should start both matches. You're getting 2 double game week players.
I think the new option 2, I still don't like it, because I feel like you're basically getting Kelly instead of Gelhardt, and then you're actually losing Saka to Mount. When you were losing Weghorst to Gelhardt, like, okay, fair play, but like, you're losing Saka. Like, I just think, I don't know if okay, free hit 37. Okay, oh, damn. Okay, so that's not when the Chelsea double is. So you wouldn't be able to free hit. Okay, fine. I do see why he wants Mount. He's probably the most likely of all the Chelsea players to play both in 36, but even then he might not.
Havertz will play both, I think.
I think for this week specifically, at least, you've got Havertz. He's a captaincy shout. I wouldn't be -8ing your team to get there. I just don't see like enough upside from Saka to Mount. For all we know, Saka's now on penalties too. So make of that what you will. Make of that what you will, mate. Jones bloke, we'll take your question and then we'll get out of here. I know we've got Kafdan's question as well. So thoughts on Saint Maximin, Shaw, and Kulusevski to Pukki, Cash, and Coutinho for bench boost. So firstly, like all 3 of those players he mentioned, like, well, both the Newcastle players anyway, after this week against Norwich, so let's say they do have Norwich, they are not good fixtures for the rest of the season, and they're not good for his bench boost 36.
Until 38.
Yeah.
They have Burnley away 38.
Okay, so that's the last good game.
Yeah.
But he's not going to bench boost them in 36. Kulusevski's double is horrendous too. There was talks of can he play wing back if the other wing backs are really bad. I don't know. And Moura then plays number 10, maybe. Like, is this a -4? If it's a -4, I would probably just do it. But there is some risk in the sense that Newcastle's fixture's okay this next week. Equally, they're not very highly owned, ASM and Shaw. So even if they haul, like, yes, you'll be bitter, but you're not going to, like, destroy your end of season and drop rank. Like, I don't mind Pukki. The FDRs weren't great for him, but he's a penalty taker. He's nailed it to play 90 minutes. He's 6 million. I think I said earlier, like, if I was on bench boost, I feel like Pukki's one of the first players I'd have just because, like, he's got an okay double. And I think the teams he plays, they both have European ties. So West Ham and Leicester in 36, they're both prioritizing Europe. So to have, like, the nailed striker on penalties for 90 minutes, I just think that part is a no-brainer. But it's like, is this a -4? Is this a -8? Can one of those transfers, like this, the ASM to Pukki part, could that wait to next week? Could you just get Cash and Coutinho now? So, like, I would just think about it in that sense. Like, does it all have to happen now? Because you're not bench boosting for a few weeks still, right?
I mean, for me, I go back to the FDR and it says do not bring Villa players in. So this I don't like these moves at all, especially not this week when ASM and Cher are facing Norwich. I'd rather have those players than Pukki. I don't think Cash and Coutinho really offer great value going forward, despite their double. So this would not be for me. If I had this kind of setup, I don't know. I'm assuming he has 2 free transfers here. I would look to upgrade.
So I think it'll be a minus. So if he doesn't do it this week, then next week it would be a -4. So
okay, so he only has 1 free transfer this week, right? So I would save the free transfer this week and look to upgrade, or unless you can just upgrade Kulusevski to a city mid, maybe Kulusevski to Mount or something like that if you can get there. If you can't
Chelsea mid, yeah, sorry.
Chelsea mid. If you can't get there, is what I was going to say. Maybe look at a city mid next week, investing in a city mid. Look a little bit longer term.
I do like the Coutinho shout. I think if he wants to go like a different route to other people, I don't see anything wrong with like Kulusevski to Coutinho shout, but Kulusevski is highly owned, and if you don't have Kane and Son like I don't, for me, I'm kind of holding Kulusevski just a little bit longer because he is my only slice of that Spurs team right now. I might try get one of the premium attackers like Kane or Son in the following week, but I think personally, I wouldn't do it for a -8 this week, not even
No.
close. Maybe next week for a -4. I do like the Pookie and Coutinho shouts. I don't mind cash on the bench boost if you've got at least 3, maybe 4 other premiums in your 5 defenders. But I think on a bench boost, because I'm not on a bench boost, it's hard for me to advise. But I think on a bench boost, I'd be far more tempted. So I can kind of see where he's coming from. Kaftan asks, target to Alonso or Maddison to Mount. Do you have any other Chelsea players? I like Maddison. I'd probably keep him, but
Maddison to Mount for me.
For you, okay. I think target to Alonso is something I would eye up, but again, like, is that really long term? At least Mount is long term move, right?
And Target's playing Norwich.
Yeah,
right?
no, maybe keep. Yeah, no, I okay, fine, that's fine. And then just quickly, Veggie taken off. What a piece of shit! Did he get a yellow card, Nate? How did he get a card? Like what's this wanker done? Sankar, so get Sterling on wild card and move to Sun next week. I think if I got Sterling now, I'll probably just keep him. Like, I don't think I'd sell him. But there are people talking about him this week. He was obviously rested last game, and like he looks like he's ready to go and fire a few goals in. But he's a very nice shout. I'd probably still just go KDB and keep him. But so Jones Bloke has said that he has Kane. Okay, having Kane, then I'd be far more willing to sell Kulusevski, especially if you can get Coutinho or Mount or Havertz. I think that's fine. Jared, what should I do with Rudiger? I have Rudiger. He's my only Chelsea player. I'm gonna sell him. I just like, I was gonna obviously like keep him all season, but 5 game weeks to go. He's definitely not playing the West Ham game by the sounds of it. Keep an eye on presses on Friday, but I'm getting rid of him either to James or to Laporte. But I'm getting rid of him. Also, Kaftan has Havertz and James already. And what was his question? So he already has Havertz and James, and now he's looking at Maddison to Mount, target to Alonso. If you've already got James, I would not want that second defender in Alonso. I'd try to get to a Laporte if you can. If you can do target to Laporte, great. Maddison to Mount, like, that's good, but you'll be going quite deep on Chelsea, and I don't know if I want 3 Chelsea players. I still feel like Maddison's a great shout, and he's far more nailed on than Barnes for the double that's going to come up. Now, if you think that none of them are nailed when it comes to the 36 double because of, the Europa League conference, then maybe it is time to do Maddison to Mount. I think that's the more likely of the 2 moves I'd do. 10 points in total. So, guys, just to put a shout out there, Weghorst after 3 months in the Premier League has matched Rafinha for double digits hauls after 2 seasons. So, yeah, shout out to all the Rafinha holders out there. James to the hold for the double. Yeah, James a definite hold. Like, I wouldn't use a free transfer to sell him to a City defender this week. If you have another way to get there, like, great. Like, say you've got I'm just trying to think where you might do that. So say you've got like Weghorst and you're looking to say downgrade him, and then that gives you the funds to do like a really bad defender, like kind of Ben White. Poor Ben White. But if you can do like Ben White to Laporte with the money you save from, say, like Weghorst to some like fodder, go for it. But I think if I had James, he's a genuine captaincy option for me this week, outside of Havertz and Werner, so I wouldn't do that. Also, Jared's gonna triple captain. If I was triple captaining a Chelsea player this week, I think it would be Havertz. I would be all over that after the rest he had.
I think I would go with James.
I think James or Havertz. I don't think I'd go for Mount, and I don't think I could bring myself to do Werner. I think you could like captain Werner, but Havertz and James both feel far more likely to play both games.
And upside, they feel like they might have some more upside. Havertz, I'm not sure, but I think James has the most upside there.
He does. I can do Rudiger to James. Yeah, so I think I would just potentially do Rudiger straight to James, mate. I think
that's probably what I'm doing, by the way.
I'm looking at that, but obviously that means I have to get Mount, not Havertz, because I'm 0.1 short.
Right,
that's like, honestly, like, if I could get James and Havertz, I would do that. Like, that's 2 free transfers. That's an easy move for me in my brain. But where do I find the 0.1? Like, do I downgrade Ben White from 4.5 to 4.4 for a hit? Like, it just seems a bit mad.
Nah.
It doesn't seem Havertz over Mount. So what we were saying, Jared, was well, for captaincy, I think so. for the short term, I think Zoff from The Wire agreed as well as a Chelsea fan. I think Havertz for the short term, just for this one double, he would be my pick of the entire Chelsea team. Mount for the long term. So if you're buying one of them and you want to keep them for the whole season, I think Mount's that guy. If it's for a captaincy or triple captaincy, I'm really excited by Havertz. If you don't want a triple captain, James, I think Havertz would be my next shout. Should I take a -4 Weghorst to Pukki? No, I would just like currently I'm starting Weghorst. I would just play him. Like Wolves are not all that. I think it's at home. Weghorst is bad, don't get me wrong, but I would only be doing Weghorst to Pukki if you're gonna like bench boost in 36 Kaftan. I just don't see like Norwich are trashed themselves. I don't see much there in it. If you can save that transfer and do it closer to 36, great. But really, like, is there like no other move this week where you could get, say, like another Chelsea player or another City player or another Liverpool player? I just feel like those are the three teams you should be really trying to go for this week if you can. I just do not see enough upside in Weghorst to Pukki, especially for a -4. Like, because if Weghorst just gets 2 points, one goal from Pukki gives you 0 points. So for me, that's just like a definite no, personally.
I agree.
But yeah, I think that's everything. Hi, Mike. When you go back to the timestamps, you'll see Eddie was spoken about, but we are going to get out of here now at 1 hour 45. I said 1 hour 15. I was going to leave by like 8:45, 9. We went live like 15 minutes late. Then we went over half an hour, so that didn't quite happen. But I've had a lot of fun with you, Gabe. This was a great show. I think the chat has been very motivating, lots of inspiration, and keeping us up to date with the score.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know if there's anything you want to say, any messages you have for the haulers, anything you want to pass on before we go?
No, just to, enjoy these final weeks, the double game weeks, and because it'll be over soon, and we're all gonna miss it. So definitely enjoy. Let go of OR for a little while. And go on an adventure. Really quick question from Nelhouse. He says, "Are we in the era of early moves, or is COVID still going to force us to do last minute moves?" I got to be honest. I think we talk about, especially content creators, we talk about not doing early moves, and everybody does early moves. I think it's just a thing of FPL. Pretty much everybody, unless you're like Rubber Ducky or some really just methodical, boring manager like that. Everyone does early moves. So yeah, not the greatest idea, but sometimes we can't help it.
I think we remember the times the early moves go wrong more often than not. So like we remember that, like I remember still years on that I brought in Ibrahimovic for a United double and he did his ACL in the Champions League and I -4'd him out before he ever played for me. And I remember that vividly. But what I don't remember is the 10 times I did a early move because I would have been priced out by 0.1 and it went blindingly well, right? So I think we remember the bad times more than the good. And I still think, like, as it is for the rest of this season, I'm not in a rush, but that's more because of like we're waiting for double game week announcements and like City's fixture announcement and when is the FA Cup going to happen, so we know who plays when. Next season I don't think there'll be as many cancellations and I think we might have a slightly more normal season, if you want to call it that. So but perhaps things will be different next year, but I think we remember the bad times too much. So guys, before we go, I've not even said this, like, I don't think more than once in like an hour and 45, but please do hit like if you enjoyed this. Do hit subscribe if you're new to the channel. Hit the bell so you get alerted when we go live. Mariner will be back next week finally, so we're excited to have him on. And yeah, if you want to show your support, become a member, support the channel. And if you need some ball shavers, I always say this at the end so that the Manscaped guys don't hear this part of the ad, but if we can get 10 Manscaped sales in this next episode, I think we have 1 week trial still left, they will look to do a long-term partnership with us, which will really support the channel grow. So if you are even having like any thoughts about you want some new grooming products or you want to surprise your wife or other half by looking after yourself, please do go and like use the NTH 20 code.
If you don't have like manscaping products, then you need them for sure. You might not know you need them, but you need them.
Yeah, no, just before we go, Sanko asks about a live stream. No, mate, that's just not gonna happen. I'm hosting from like 1 p.m. A pre-fest lunch. The same thing happened at the last fest. I think by the time even 4 p.m. comes around and I'm in the fest venue, I might already be drunk enough to take my -8 I was telling you about earlier. So the concept of me like streaming anything tomorrow, that's out the window. I'm going to be hosting like 40 guests, I think we have for the pre-fest lunch, who are coming like as part of the collab between FPL Meets and Fest. And then we're all going to walk over together as a group of like 40 people to Fest at 4 p.m. And that's till like midnight. I just hope I don't wake up and miss the deadline on Saturday morning and don't end up with any Chelsea players and have Rudiger in my team. That's what I'm hoping, that I don't just miss the deadline on Saturday. But yeah, anyone who's going to Fest tomorrow, Mike Halpin says he'll watch this later. But yeah, anyone who's going to Fest tomorrow, come and find me. Come and make sure you tell me who you are, and we'll take a couple of photos. I'll buy you a shot. I've just promised quite a lot of people a shot, but
Yeah,
my wallet will thank me later. But I'm only going to let you have the shot if you show me that you use the NTH 20 code on manscaped.com. If I don't see the order confirmation email, I'm not buying you guys a shot.
What if you see the finished product? What if they show you the finished product?
Anyone who's willing to take it out in person, they will get more than one free shot. But yeah, thank you everyone. Thanks for tuning in. Hit that like. Love you as always, and we will see you back here with Mariner next week. So take care everyone, and enjoy Game Week 34. Good luck, and make sure you make the most of these last 5 weeks.
Peace.